The Champavat Man-Eater. The best part of the African nights while staying at Windhaven were the campfires where Sir Malcolm Havelock told his primal tracking tales of India's most savage man-eaters which he knew firsthand. As he sat down on the stump next to the fire, he took a long draw from the bottle, wiped his lips on his sleeve and leaned forward. He would look each of us in the eye as he began to weave his tale just to make sure we were all paying attention. Nobody wanted a smack on the shin from his walking stick. He began. Of particular interest to me was the story of the Champavat tiger. She was a Bengal tigress responsible for an estimated 436 deaths in Nepal and the Kumaon area of India. I grew up in India in the middle of the last century with my parents Lord Andrew Havelock and my mother Lady Amanda. Amongst my father's friends was Jim Corbett, the famous hunter of man-eating cats. Eventually 20% of all India would be named after this man, and I had the opportunity to hang around with him. The tigers of Chowgarh were a pair of man-eating Bengal tigers, consisting of an old tigress and her subadult cub, which for over a 5-year period killed a reported 64 people in eastern Kumaon over an area spanning 1,500 square miles. The figures are uncertain, as the natives of the areas the tigers frequented claimed double that number, and they don't consider victims who survived direct attacks but died later. Both tigers were killed by Jim Corbett. The Chuka man-eating tiger was a male Bengal tiger responsible for the death of 3 boys from that village in the Ladhaya Valley in 1937. He was shot by Jim Corbett in April 1937, who noted that the animal had a broken canine tooth and several gunshot wounds in various parts of his body. The Vak man-eater was a female Bengal tiger who killed and ate 4 human victims, 2 women, 2 men, between September and November 1938. She was operating in Kumaon, at the Nepalese border, between the villages of Vak, Chuka, Kot Kindri, and Sem. The tigress was shot on November 30, 1938 by Jim Corbett. Although humans are not regular prey for them, the tiger has killed more people than any other cat. Between 1800 and 1900, it's estimated that tigers killed over 10,000 people in India alone, coinciding with the wave of British settlement. Man-eaters are mostly old and injured tigers, and almost all tigers that are identified as man-eaters are eventually captured, shot or poisoned. Man-eaters have been a recurrent problem for India, especially in Kumaon, Gariwal, and the Sundarbans mangrove swamps of Bengal, where some healthy tigers have been known to hunt humans. As the salt water of the Sundarbans drove the tigers of the mangrove swamps insane. I was not around for the kill of the Champavat tigress, but I got the story firsthand from Jim Corbett, who was there at the time, because he killed her. In India, a story told to you by someone who was there is considered a fact. Jim Corbett shot and killed her in 1907 after what can only be called an epic hunt and a more epic confrontation. She's considered the deadliest animal on the planet in terms of the number of people killed by a single animal. The man-eating tigress is recorded in the Guinness Book of World Records for killing 436 people in a span of 4 years. The Champavat tigress was a Royal Bengal tigress who was forced to leave conventional methods of hunting when she received a severe injury to her jaw. She was a silent killer and an efficient hunter, such that the actual kill count was probably far more than she was given credit for, because many people go missing in this part of the world and no remains are found of them. Certainly not signs of a tiger attack, or at least any that you're going to stop and look for in the jungle. The Champavat tigress started the killing of people in the Nepal region, and later it was discovered that she had started consuming them as well. Locals believed the attacks on some people were the result of a sudden encounter, but when it was found that the tigress was hunting people for food, it raised panic and fear in the entire region to a new level, even for the Himalayas. The authorities in Nepal took several measures, such as posting forest guards on key paths, routing elephant riders around villages, positioning shooters at elevation. Hunters and trackers were employed, but nothing helped, and all their efforts went in vain. She was such a clever animal that it was very difficult to collect any tracks on her from the attack site, and she was always able to escape from the positioned shooters. Seeing no other means, the Nepalese army was asked for help, which turned out beneficial, as the army somehow managed to push the man-eater from the region and the Champavat tiger fled to become India's problem. Jim tells me it's unclear how many casualties she had chalked up by this time, but it was probably half of her lifetime, as this was in her second known year. Into the Kumaon region of Uttarakhand, India. After entering the Kumon region, the man-eater created panic and fear in the region as she started killing people right away. The Indian authorities took several measures, posting forest guards on key paths, routing elephant riders around villages, positioning shooters at elevation, employing hunters and trackers, but nothing helped, and all their efforts went in vain. The authorities and forest officials were disappointed as the killing continued over every passing day. However, this was the point where authorities felt they were close enough that they could call in the world-famous hunter of the time, Jim Corbett. He was such a brilliant hunter that in his entire hunting life he shot 19 man-eater leopards and 14 man-eater tigers. He killed only those animals which became a serious threat to the life of the people and hunted alone without any assistance from other hunters. After the killing of a local 16-year-old village girl near Champavat region, Jim Corbett followed the tracks of the Champavat tigress, and he managed to locate the remains of the girl. Sir Malcolm took a drink from his bottle and wiped his mouth on his sleeve, then said, "He told me that he felt something wasn't right immediately, and the hairs on the back of his neck stood straight out. Suddenly the tiger charged on him, and he somehow managed to escape by firing shots into the air, but nowhere near the Champavat tigress. He recouped himself and waited until the following day to resume the pursuit." Sir Malcolm likes to set the scene of the day of that final hunt. This was the domain of the tiger, and this was certainly no amateur man-eater with over 400 victims. She was the world champion. Jim Corbett decided to use villagers to organize a beat the next day around noon. A beat is where hundreds of locals beat drums or trees or the ground to push an animal in the direction they want them to follow. This beat followed the Kampa River Gorge, and with the help of about 300 villagers from Champavat, Corbett eventually confronted the tigress in the gorge. He told me when he first saw her their eyes met. I didn't ask him what he saw, but he told me without blinking that there was no way out for either of us but straight ahead. His first shots hit the tigress in the chest and shoulder respectively, but those did not stop her. As she regained her composure and was rushing toward Corbett again, Jim took another man's rifle and, firing the acquired gun from the hip, the bullet hit the big cat in the foot, causing her to collapse just 6 meters from him. A post-mortem on the tigress showed she was between 10 and 12 years old. The upper and lower canine teeth on the right side of her mouth were broken, the upper one in half, the lower one right down to the bone. Corbett said this injury was the result of an old gunshot and probably prevented her from hunting her natural prey. Humans are easy prey for tigers, he said. After bringing down the Champavat tiger, Jim Corbett acquired a reputation as the leading hunter of man-eaters. This ability served him well, at a time when deforestation and diminishing prey were driving more and more tigers and leopards to hunt humans for food. It was during his waning career and into retirement that he became closer with my father Lord Andrew and my mother Lady Amanda Havelock. Lord Andrew was a conservationist who was dedicated to protecting the tiger, and Jim Corbett no longer hunted tigers but understood them better than anyone.